This council meeting here at Bolsover District Council. Before we start, can I just remind everybody of the need to speak very clearly into your microphone. If you have it some distance away, you won't be heard. So please do speak into the microphone. And to assist you in this, I'm going to make the exception for this meeting, and while we've still got the screens to make life easier for everybody, to remove the necessity for members to stand when they wish to speak. You may remain seated so you can speak into your microphone whilst we've got all these additional screens. But please, all other protocols apply. Just to remind you that when you first speak, remember to tell us your name and your ward and then speak accordingly. So if you would please follow that, it would be most helpful. Thank you very much indeed. So now we'll move on, and I'll remind you that, as usual, the meeting is being recorded for the purposes of the minutes, and there's also, of course, the meeting is being live streamed. We'll just let these members of the public take a seat. Good morning. Okay, so moving on then. Turning to the agenda, we'll start, if we may, with apologies for absence, and I already have two apologies. Patricia Clough and Dexter Bullock. Are there any other apologies for absence, please? Yes?
Thank you. Jane Bryson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Jane Bryson. Any other apologies? Right, they are duly noted. Thank you very much indeed. We'll move on then to the item 2, which as usual is declarations of interest, and these should already have been declared to the governance manager in advance of the meeting. However, if anybody has not declared made a declaration of interest, they wish to raise their hand at this stage, and we'll make a note of that. No, that's fine. Let's move on then. Thank you. So I have some announcements for you. I will go through them steadily, and hopefully you'll be able to hear everything I say. First of all, it's with great sadness that I inform everyone that former councillor Alan Tomlinson passed away recently. Alan represented Bolsover District Council and Blackwell Parish Council for many years. He was the Bolsover District Councillor for the Blackwell Ward from 1979 until 2015, and was Deputy Leader of Bolsover District Council between 2003 and 2015. He was an instrumental voice throughout his time as a member, and always had the best interests of his constituents at heart. Alan held many positions during his time as a councillor and was heavily involved with finance, economic development, leisure, supporting businesses, council events, and civic engagements. Our thoughts and condolences are with Alan's family. The funeral will be next Thursday, that's the 11th of November, and that will take place at Swanwick Crematorium at 1 p.m. and all members are invited, if they so wish, to be in attendance, and there will be some refreshments at the local hostelry afterwards. Thank you. Members should also please be aware, because you've all now been sent invitations, that an Honorary Alderman presentation event has been arranged to honour the 7 former councillors being awarded Honorary Alderman status at the council meeting in March 21. The event will now take place at Van Dyke's by Wiles Hotel in Clown at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, the 1st of December. Further details of the event have already been circulated to you, but you are asked, please, if you have not already done so, to let Nicola here, our governance manager, know your intentions of whether you intend to be present or not. That will help her in terms of ensuring the right amount of catering is available for you afterwards. Thank you very much indeed. That concludes my opening remarks. We may now, if we can, please move on to item 4, which is minutes of the last meeting. And I'd like to, yes, Councillor Kirkham.
Councillor Tom Kirkham, Alderman Ward. With respect to the minutes from the previous meeting, the amendment on the minutes in relation to agenda item 5, it mentions the 21st of June as being the sale date, but I think it was mentioned that the sale date was either recently or the 21st of July, which was the date of the vote.
Could you just give us a page reference in our current set of doc-
Page 6.
That's agenda item 5.
That's right, yeah.
And you're querying that the date should be 21st of July.
I assume it was then because it was mentioned that the sale had been completed recently. And the 21st of June was a month before. Unless that.
Are you, is somebody from, Kevin, are you able to confirm or otherwise that you have information on that?
Chair, I don't have that information. I think
Okay,
I can find out from my colleagues after this meeting and report back.
thank you. Are you happy, Councillor Kirkham, if we establish the correct date and amend subject to that? Would you be happy if we move on with this item?
Yep.
Thank you very much indeed. We will check and make sure it's the correct date. Okay, thank you very much.
Also on the minutes, Chair, on page 23, next to the last paragraph, it's got me down as saying that in response to a query from Councillor Peter Roberts regarding funding, the leader explained that he didn't have the answer going forward. Now, I think every member in this place knows that I don't use weasel words like going forward. So could that be removed from the minutes, Chair?
Yes, I'm sure that can be removed in the final version of the minutes. Are there any other points of accuracy that anybody else wishes to raise? If not, can I invite somebody please to move the minutes with those changes as a true record? That's been moved initially by Councillor Heffer and seconded by Councillor Adams. They got up there first, I'm sorry. Okay, so all in favour, please show. That appears to be unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. We'll move on then, if we may, please, to the next item on the agenda. And I'm delighted to report items 5, 6, and 7. In each case, 5 is questions from the public. We have no questions from the public. 6 is questions from members. We have no questions from members. And 7 is motions. And we have no motions presented to this meeting. So with your permission, councillors, I am going to move on immediately to item 8. Thank you. And item 8 is a report on urgency decisions taken by the executive. And I'm going to invite now the monitoring officer in the form of Nick, who is deputising for the monitoring officer, to present the report. Thank you very much indeed, Nicola.
Thank you, Chair. The monitoring officer is obligated to report to council instances where a decision is taken under urgency provisions, and the decision that's detailed within the appendix was made under delegation to the section 151 officer, and this was in respect of the annual insurance policies, and this is where call-in was waived. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm now going to invite Councillor Duncan McGregor to move the recommendations, and the recommendations are on page 26. Councillor McGregor, please.
Councillor McGregor, Elton Ward. I've moved the recommendations on page 26, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Does that receive a seconder, please?
Seconded, Chair.
That's been seconded by the leader. Thank you very much indeed. Are there any questions before I move to a vote, please? All those in favour, please indicate. Anyone against? Are there any abstentions? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. We'll move now on to item 9. Item 9 is appointment of auditors, and that's a report of the portfolio holder for finance. And I'm now going to invite Teresa, our section 151 officer, to present the report. Teresa, over to you. unless Councillor, the portfolio holder, would prefer to present the report. He's waving his hand enthusiastically,
Your due diligence,
and he will give us a,
Chair,
I can assure you, members, he'll give you a succinct report. Councillor Mosby.
thank you for that. I'm not quite sure it's a compliment or not, Chair, but I will take it as a compliment today. I will be quick and I will be straightforward today. And I will bring Teresa in, later on in the report if needs be. Based, whatever, what I've done after dinner, when I've done, should I say, then it's all okay. Really, it's we're asking council to decide whether we, Boswell Council, should opt into the national arrangements for the procurement of external audit or procure the external audit services independently. National scheme for appointing local auditors in June 1916, Secretary of State specified public sector audit appointments, the PSAA, as an appointing person for local government and police bodies for audits from 2018-19. The national scheme for the timetable for appointing auditors from 2023 to 2024 means we have to decide whether we've got to opt into the national scheme for the period 2023-24 to 2027-28. The national framework means the best option, I think, from what we're seeing in all this. And it seems that, leaving local government views that existing suppliers agree that the supply side of the market needs to be expanded in it all, which includes encouraging bids from challenging firms, public sector audit appointments, limited as PSA, the body nominated to govern and run these appointments. So really, what we're sort of saying on the recommendation, which is on page, when I can find it, 41, yeah, there we are, at top there, that the council agrees to accept the invitation to become an opted-in authority for the audit years 2023-2024 to 2027-2028 for the purposes of appointing of our auditor under the provisions of Local Government Audit and Accountability Act 2014 and the requirements of the Local Audit Appointing Persons Regulations 2015. So that's me done. If there's any questions, I'm sure Teresa, unless Teresa wants to say something.
Councillor McGregor would second, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. So you've heard the recommendations being moved by Councillor Mosby, seconded by Councillor Duncan McGregor. So Teresa, do you have anything you wish to add? Yes, please.
There's been a lot of mention in the press recently about how auditors are failing to recruit staff and aren't getting local government audits completed by the statutory deadline. I'm reasonably happy with our auditors and have to report that we are one of only 2 councils in Derbyshire that have had our accounts signed off by this year's deadline of the 30th of September. But nationally, only 9% of audits were signed off by the 30th of September deadline. This year, the pandemic affected the finance team more than previous years, but we worked hard to provide our statement of accounts to the auditors in good time, meaning they were able to commence our audit reasonably early. I don't personally think the lack of audits completed is purely the fault of the auditors. The choice we have is to opt into the national scheme and procure our own auditors. I think one of the councils in Derbyshire does have their own auditors. They didn't have their accounts signed off for the 1920 year by the 31st of March 21. So they're now 2 years that they've not had theirs signed off by. I think for me, the recommendation to opt in is the right one for us to do.
Thank you very much indeed, Teresa. The leader.
Yeah, I think we ought to commend Teresa and her team for getting it signed off early. And, it's always worth noting that the European... Sorry. It's always worth noting, that European Union have never, ever had their accounts signed off anyway. So you're in excellent company, Teresa.
Thank you very much indeed. Are there any questions to the report, please, before I take the vote? No, in that case, all those in favour of the recommendation, please indicate. That is unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. So we'll move on, if we may, please, to item 10. Yes, item 10 is the proportionality change and change of committee seats. And I'm now going to invite the leader of the council, Councillor Steve Fritchie, to speak on item 10. Councillor Fritchie.
Yeah, on this one, colleagues, this is due to change of numbers. Nicola has to go through a process. And initially we thought that, no change because we're halfway through a year, it seemed a bit pointless until it was pointed out that we'd got a situation where on page 50, where you got Councillor Liz Smith representing independent groups, obviously she couldn't do that. And you got also Councillor Liz Smith representing the independent group on Employment and Personnel Committee. So what I'd suggest, and I'm sure you'll support, colleagues, is that Deborah Watson replaces Liz Smith on the Employee Appeals Committee with a substitute, Ray Effer. And on the Employment and Personnel Committee, Deborah Watson replaces Liz Smith on that too. And I'd move that, Chair, and I'm sure, colleagues will support that.
I'm more than happy to second that proposal from the chair. Did you wish to speak about, did you wish to make an observation, Nicola?
Thank you, Chair. Just to be clear, that this would be to reject the proportionality as presented.
Yeah. Okay. You've heard the proposal. You've heard that it's been seconded. Does anybody wish to speak on this issue? Right, in which case, with your permission, I will put this to the vote. The proposal is to those two positions to be taken up by Councillor Deborah Watson on behalf of the Independents in replacement of Councillor Liz Smith. All those in favour, please indicate. Nobody against, and that's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for your help on that. That's made that nice and straightforward. We now move on, if we may please, to the member development report, which is agenda item 11, and that is going to be presented by Councillor Sandra Peake. Sandra.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Sandra Peake, Langworth Ward. I'd like to move the recommendations that the Member Development Annual Report for 2020 and 21 be noted. Thank you, Chair.
Does that receive a seconder, please?
Councillor
Thank you. It's been seconded by Councillor McGregor. Thank you very much. Are there any questions, please, to the report? Yes, Councillor Mosby.
It's not a question, it's merely a suggestion, and this is to Sandra. Risk assessment is quite an important document that we have within the council. It underpins such a lot really at the end of the day, and risk appetite and this sort of thing, and emerging risk, it's quite an intricate subject. And I do think it'd be interesting if, and I put this to Sandra or to whoever is the clerk over this, that maybe perhaps risk assessment could be included in this forthcoming year's training, just to give all members that basic understanding of how risk assessment fits in with current policies and practices, within the council. I do chair the risk management group in it all, and there is some interesting discussions come out there, and there is some out of the box thinking, I think I could say sometimes when we take it. So if I could make that suggestion, that if the group decide to look at it, could they try and include risk assessment within the next year's portfolio of work really.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Mosby. Councillor Peake, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Clive. You did mention it to me, and I have mentioned it to Nicola in the past that we will be looking at that. Okay.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, the recommendation's been moved and seconded. There don't appear to be any further questions on the report, in which case can I now ask you to indicate your support for the recommendations. Please show. Thank you. That appears to be unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Move on then, if we may please, to item 12, which is the medium-term financial strategy. I'm going to now invite the portfolio holder to present this report. Clive.
Bless you. Thanks, Chair. As it says on the purpose and the summary on page 61, it's to provide medium-term financial strategies to members to allow them to set the 4-year strategic financial intention for the general fund of the council for the years 2022-23 to 2025-26 in this process. The medium-term financial strategy sets out the council's strategic approach to the management of its finances and outlines various factors and influence that may impact on us over the next few years in it all. the medium-term financial strategy for 2022, 23, 25 to 26 is attached to Appendix 1 within it all. Really, that strategy is the starting point for developing a meaningful 4-year strategy that sets out where the council is going and different strands of funding that is available to the council. What we see on page 62 at 2.4, the outcome of the spending review on there, and also once the detailed spending review, we actually build that in, and we obviously have the spending review and the budget, as we know, 27th was it of October, something like that. So really, this is a strategy that I suppose we did have. It were in various different places throughout other strategies within the finance department. It's now been brought together in one document in it all. And that tends to fall in line with the peer review who came here in November, I think it was 2019. That was one of their recommendations in it. So we've now actually pulled it all together as a single document so it can be picked up and pulled out. Really, as far as I'm concerned, that's me. The recommendations are on page 62, and there's 1 to 6 of them there. But I don't know if Teresa wanted to add anything to it. And if not, I'll move the recommendations on 62, numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I won't read them out this time.
Thank you very much indeed. I think all members have got sight of those. Teresa, did you want to add anything before I ask for a seconder?
No, I'm fine.
Thank you very much indeed. In that case, would somebody care to second the motion? Thank you, Councillor Chris Kane has seconded that. Are there any questions or comments on the report, please, before I put it to the vote? No, thank you very much indeed. Then all those in favour of the recommendations, please show. That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. Yes, Kevin Shillito.
Thank you, Chair. With reference back to the point Councillor Kirkham made on the minutes earlier, we verified that the date of sale was the 20th of July, and the minutes will be updated accordingly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Kevin. That's much appreciated. Thanks for being so diligent and finding that out. Right, we move now on to item 13, which I'm afraid to say is exclusion of the public. So because the following items are going to include sensitive personal and financial information, I will invite members to move, second, and vote on the following: that the public be excluded from the meeting during the discussion of the following items of business to avoid the disclosure to them of exempt information as defined in Part 1 of Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972 as amended by the Local Government Access to Information Variation Order 2006. That was a mouthful. I'd now like to invite Duncan McGregor to move the recommendations.
I move the recommendations.
Does that receive a seconder? Thank you very much indeed. Members of the public, thank you very much for attending. All those in favour, please indicate. That's unanimous. Thank you. We'll move on then. If we